Okay, let's reconvene. Okay, yeah, who do we have online now? Janet? Mike and Kevin? Benita, okay, good. We got everybody. Got everybody present. Everybody make it back from lunch. Yeah, Teresa's here, but I guess everybody's here. Okay, we've distributed the agenda for the board meeting. We've got this broken down the way we normally do, and having a first reading, one action item there, and then 4 action items on final reading. The first is to adopt the agenda for the meeting. Is there a motion that we adopt the agenda? Got a motion, second. Any questions, discussion on the agenda? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Aye. All in favor said aye, right? Get a delayed response here, so 100% in favor of the adoption of the agenda. The first item is the... Thank you, Mike. Yeah, we want to make sure we get your votes registered here. First item on the item is the licensure proposal that we discussed earlier today. And so, Sarah, are you going to?
Yeah, I'm going to stay right here if that's okay with you, Chairman. This first item actually has 5 parts, but it again is streamlining our current licensure policy and making some appropriate connections to teacher effectiveness, as we discussed in the workshop, while recognizing the role of licensure with respect to other state and district personnel functions. So again, there's 5 parts to this proposal for first reading, and I want to go briefly through those 5 parts, which are in your packet. The first is educator licensure rule. Now, in the past, we've had rule around licensure and program approval that was intertwined in 2 rules, and we've tried to streamline and make more clear the rule that pertains to educator licensure, and then in a minute I'll talk to you about the rule that pertains to program approval. So this first portion of the item, the educator rule, repeals the current language and replaces it with the text, again, in your packet. And the new language does what we just described in terms of clarifying and streamlining the licensure requirements in Tennessee. In doing so, the initial licensure, renewal, and advancement determinations are informed by teacher effectiveness data, as the Commissioner described during the workshop presentation. So this is, again, just the language that would go into rule around those changes. The second part of the item is the educator licensure policy. So I know the board members are familiar with this, but the rule, again, is the high-level language that's governed for the policies that you would pass. The policy are the more specifics around licensure. So this policy, again, specifies in more detail than the rule the educator license types, the performance expectations for advancement and renewal decisions, and these changes, again, as we discussed, represent a more streamlined approach with clear performance criteria that are outlined now at every stage of the licensing process. So that's the policy. The third part of the item is a review policy, and this policy outlines a process for review of license eligibility determinations within a specific set of parameters related to the performance data itself. So if an educator was non-renewed and had questions about that determination, this policy, again, provides a way for that educator to take that question, and again, through the policy, there's a process for reviewing that eligibility determination. The fourth part of the item is, again, a rule, but this is the one that pertains to educator preparation. And as the Commissioner mentioned, we won't be coming back to you until this fall with more policy proposals around preparation approval changes. We're working with our national accrediting body and working to see what partnership might be established before we come back to you with policy around preparation. But this is just the rule. So again, this is the high-level language and would repeal the current rule and replace it with the text, again, in your packets. It really just focuses on the broad purposes and authorizations related to the preparation programs in Tennessee. It doesn't represent any significant changes. It's really just clarifying and making its own rule distinctly different from the licensure rule. The last one I want to draw your attention to is with respect to the professional assessments. And you have tables in your packet that go through all the praxis tests that we currently use in Tennessee. And the item before you today has a few changes that I wanted to draw your attention to with respect to the tests that we offer in Tennessee. So as we noted when we went through the licensure presentation, there's a few places where we're changing endorsement areas. And then there's also some tests that, as the Commissioner mentioned, come up once they've been regenerated. ETS is kind of on a rolling basis, always working to regenerate their existing tests and sometimes introducing new tests. So the ones that are up before you today, all of the cut scores that we are recommending are at that national recommended cut score level. You can see the old cut scores and the new cut scores. In some cases, the test scales have changed, so it's a little misleading sometimes to look at the old score versus the new because they're sometimes on different scales. But in every case, the tests that are before you today represent the recommended national cut. And the ones that are up for either regeneration or because they are new tests being introduced through the Praxis series are the English language arts content knowledge, the math content knowledge, the middle school English language arts, the middle school math, teaching reading elementary education, psychology, and then all three of our Praxis 1 tests. Those have all changed. So the core academic skills for educators, both in math, reading, and writing, those tests have been changed, and again, the recommended cut scores are what we would propose that you adopt on first reading today. And that is all 5 parts of the item around the licensure changes. I'm happy to take any questions from the board about any of those sections.
Okay, questions for Sarah? Any questions?
Where does Teach for Tennessee get into this? How would their license be?
Teach Tennessee currently is an alternative route provider. So they would be practitioner licenses that those fellows would be issued in the future. And they, again, right now are issued kind of the transitional license, but under the new policy would receive a practitioner license.
I have a comment about practice. I just want to actually give credit to Diff Ray, who was on this board for many years. This is an issue of great importance. Very pleased to see it coming to fruition. So.
Well said. Dick would be happy, very happy. Okay, other questions? Sarah, I guess the only comment I would have is that I think the presentation that we did, the PowerPoint, this was very clear, easy to follow, understand. Reading through all this is not easy to understand. I found myself, even after seeing the presentation, trying to read through this and understand it, and it is, you say you're simplifying, and
well, and we certainly are. The old rule, if you want, I can send you that as well. It's even more convoluted. The thing about licensure is there really are so many kind of nuanced elements that it, it's a chore to streamline, but we've attempted to do that.
Okay. The other thing, say again on the Praxis, not on the ones that we're approving now, but in the future, as we, what is going to drive resetting the other Praxis?
So, as the Commissioner mentioned in the presentation, our goal is to be in the top third with our Praxis cut scores over a 10-year period. Between first and second reading, we will begin to work and kind of break down what that might look like. There are a whole host of Praxis assessments that we currently require in various endorsement areas. And so, as those tests are coming up for, to be regenerated, the first step is to set them at the recommended cut. And then over the next 10 years, I think Mike was the one that mentioned those kind of incremental milestones and how we will work over time to increase those scores. We know we can't do it overnight because that will require our programs to begin to recruit and select differently into their programs, and there's a whole host of things that have to happen that will take some time, but it'll be incrementally over the next 10 years that we'll begin to raise those scores.
Okay. Carolyn?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to bring up something that I raised with Sarah earlier. In the proposed rule, the section that's on page 6 of that rule, under other special cases, number 4 down there, validation of credit from an unapproved institution. I had asked Sarah exactly what is an unapproved institution and why would we be accepting credit. And would you like to give us a little bit of that?
Sure. I've told Carolyn, and this is something that, again, we'd love your feedback on. In the past, if a student went to school out of state and came to Tennessee for a graduate program in education, there's a chance that they might have done an undergraduate degree at an institution that was not accredited in their home state. And for the institution that accepts them into their graduate program in Tennessee, under our current rule and under this proposal, we would continue that. So again, would like the board's feedback on this. There are a certain number of credits that can be accepted in terms of, they honor those credits even if they weren't from an accredited university. So this is something that's been in the rule for a long time. It's not something that we chose to change, but the practice has been for some students who go to an institution, if they're accepted into a graduate program in Tennessee, that program might recognize some of their credits from the institution.
And I guess my question then becomes, is this a problem area? Is this something we needed to tighten up on? How frequently would this be the case? I mean, what kinds of students would those be? Are we missing people if we don't keep this in? Are we eliminating people if we eliminate this?
Yeah.
You can give us some feedback before we have second reading.
Sure, I'd be happy to. My understanding is that it's not a practice or something that is utilized very often. And really what we'll hope to do in October is to think about program approval and the standards that we would hold for programs in terms of admitting students. And so I think that would start to address some of the concerns that you might have about, the student that might have come from an unaccredited institution. But we can certainly look and see if there's data around the number of times that gets utilized and give you some more information at second reading.
I guess I had a similar question on the non-public school teacher license on page 2 of the rule. I'm not sure where that fits exactly, but I'm sure there's an explanation.
There is. I'm happy to tell you about that one. We have been in conversation with our non-public school advisory council and others who represent those teachers, and in the past they have been able to keep an active Tennessee license because we haven't required performance data. It's similar to the evaluation kind of conundrum that I've brought to you on occasion as well. We've not been able to advance their license based on performance data because they don't have the same performance data based on state tests in non-public schools. So this would be a way of giving them a license that's specific to non-public schools that wouldn't be valid in a public school, but it would be a way of allowing them to have an active license that was specific to non-public settings that would be different from the practitioner license that would be based on performance data.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion that we approve on first reading? Got a motion, second? Got a second. Okay. Any further questions?
Okay. Point of clarification. If you're for some of it and against some of it, what should you do? I mean, if it worked out, I mean, we have brought up some concerns.
Well, I think one way to address those is obviously we're going to bring it back for second reading, and we get, the opportunity to rework or to get clarification on some points, questions that you may have. That would be one route. The other, it kind of depends on how severe your concerns are. You could vote against it, but then, the result is that we delay the whole thing. Yeah, right. So I guess it depends on the concerns. If there are basically questions that still have that we need additional information on and so forth, then we can handle that before we bring it back from the second reading. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, because we are on conference call, we require a roll call vote, so Joey, if you could call the roll, please.
Ms. Ayers? Aye. Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Justice? Aye. Ms. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Roberts?
Aye.
Dr. Rogers?
No.
Mr. Ralston?
Aye.
Ms. Sloyan?
Aye.
Dr. Rice?
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it. That's passed on first reading. We'll now move to the reading on the final reading. The item A is the minimum salary schedule. Sarah?
Yeah, I'm going to present that one as well. Thank you. As we discussed earlier, pursuant to Tennessee Code 493306, the Commissioner of Education is required to annually formulate and submit to the State Board of Education for approval a state salary schedule for licensed personnel. That salary schedule must include a base salary for licensed personnel with a bachelor's degree and 0 years experience, and licensed personnel with more training and experience must receive more than the established base salary. The proposal in front of you for the 13-14 salary schedule is designed to remove barriers to innovation around compensation structures and to provide maximum flexibility to school districts to allow differentiated pay in a manner that complies with state law and serves the best interests of districts, students, and communities. I'm happy to take any questions about the salary schedule. Again, we noted the 2 changes that have been made since first reading during the workshop discussion, but I'm happy to take any final questions about the schedule itself.
Okay, questions for Sarah? Any questions? Any questions that we didn't already cover in the workshop? How urgent is this?
So the state board is required annually to approve a salary schedule to go into effect for this current school year. So there must be something adopted for this 13-14 school year, which begins for most districts in August. Many districts have already adopted their local salary schedules, which again, in most every case is above the minimum, both the past minimum and this current increased minimum that's before you today. But it's something that needs to be adopted before the school year begins.
We've basically, taken the position that we need to approve this prior to the beginning of the fiscal year, or prior to first
July 1.
class. That's been our target each year to get that done.
We don't have time to rehash it.
I would defer to the chairman on that, but as he mentioned, the fiscal year beginning in July 1.
My concern, Chairman, is that, of all of the responses we have gotten from teachers throughout the state, and seemingly even here today, the misunderstanding of the proposal. Can it be put in a language that can be acceptable and that we all be in some type of unity? But I am definitely for the increase in letters, but I do have a little hesitation when we compare the new with the old. I haven't completely comprehended that, and seen what a lot of others have. Is there any way that we could just in language fix that a little?
I think that would be difficult. I don't know exactly how we would do that, Melvin. I think
Chairman,
we've got this issue on the table. I think it's unfortunate that we have got the misleading communication that's out there. And lack of understanding that's there. But I'm reluctant to continue this dialogue, into the future. I think we've got to and this is just my opinion, I think we've got to move forward with it and move on, you know, but
you know, my concern, Chairman, is I want to do the same, but you know, there's a concern, and I think as a state board, we can put in some type of language, something that will be acceptable. And you know, and I don't want to just call for the meeting, but I just wish that something could be promised.
well, I'd be very open to that. What would you suggest?
Just as the lady spoke about the concerns of the TEA, you know, there's some language, you know, as we know, you know, that the state board definitely would like to see the teachers compensated well, and definitely don't give the indication that something is going to be taken from them. And that's the perception now. As they increase in seniority, at a point, compensation stops. They do not get the increases that they have been adjusted to over these number of years. You know, that stops. You know, what is it that will give them that compensation from 11 on, you know, that year of 11 on?
Well, I think that we could, let me propose a statement I think we could agree on and make that has basically 2 points. And there are points that I made earlier. One is that the state board is firmly behind the need to increase teacher salaries so that they are competitive with other states and are competitive with other professions. And I think we can, you know, that'd be point one. Point two would be that we believe that a way to get more money into the total teacher compensation pool is that we have got to provide more flexibility for LEAs to design compensation programs that meet their local needs. And the third point would that be that we would anticipate that many of the schedules that are out there will continue to recognize experience through 20 years and will continue to recognize advanced degrees the way that they are now. Are we assured that the LEA will give that? The thing that we could also put in a fourth point, if you want to add it to that statement, is that if implementation, I said this earlier also, if implementation of this policy isn't working out the way that we anticipate, so that teachers are getting more salary and we aren't experiencing some of these difficulties we identified, that we will come back and change the rules. So, you know, you've got those 4 points that I think we could make, and I believe everybody around this table would agree to, I think, what I've heard. If that's the kind of thing that you're thinking about, Melvin, or, I mean, that would be a statement of intent, basically, of what the state board intends with this change.
I'll be very honest with you, Mr. Chairman, with all respect. You know, I was not really familiar with the old schedule. And it was definitely pointed out to me that the new schedule has, I received it, and I don't know. That was just too much difference. And that what led to, you know, the disbelief and the feeling that the compensation was going to be decreased. I don't know what the answer is, but I believe that with the teachers, that language couldn't be so plain and understood that they don't feel like they're being shortchanged. But I don't want to delay.
Okay?
We've got two things in the paper that say two different things. I think that's what is the problem, and so it's a distrust and then to know what to do. But from the way I understood it, you know, from a year 1 to 0 to 5, it's the same salary that we got on this. But the difference is the differentiated pay, and that's where the money comes in, where they would get the money. That's not right.
But only,
I guess the thing is, I think that what might make people happy is to assure that they get a cost of living raise every year, that they get the step in. And that's what is taken away, because you say there's going to be more money to pay teachers. Where does the money come from? And so it's coming, it has to take away from somebody to give to somebody else.
I think, you know, the money basically is going to come from, you know, a continuation of what the Governor and General Assembly have been doing for the last couple of years, and that is increasing the total compensation that comes through the DEP. That's where I think, you know, most of the money that has come from. But I think to sell the need to do that, we've got to have the flexibility for locals to make sure that we're using this money in the most effective way possible. And that's the thing that's important. Okay, to me, the decision that we have in front of us is to approve this, and I'm certainly am very receptive to making those statements that are just made about the intent of what we're doing here and what we anticipate happening. We can certainly do that. But if we don't approve this schedule, then I think the alternative is to basically approve the old schedule.
Yeah.
That does not get the job done.
Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we include your four points with the motion, with what is prepared for us, and vote on that.
Okay, got a motion, Lonnie seconds the motion, that we include the 4 points that I made there, and we obviously will work on the wording some, but we will be very diligent in making those 4 exact points as part of the motion. Okay, we've got a motion and a second.
Chairman Lawson, I think because you're voting on something, to add to the rule, or add to the policy, you've got to state what it is that you're going to put in there.
I thought I just stated it.
Well, yeah.
Those 4 points, could you reiterate?
We don't have them in the form of a motion.
Right.
An alternative is to create a secondary resolution. You could, at the July meeting or something, that would be, if you don't want to, if you're uncomfortable with the exact language, craft a resolution to adopt at the July meeting behind whatever happens on the vote regarding season 40 today.
Well, Gary,
I think you can amend the proposal figures, the script, include that as part of the statements at the bottom of the salary.
I think what we can do is, we can come back at the July meeting if we need to and amend that. But I think that you know, the points are, to me, very clear that I made there, and we could reiterate those, but they, you know, basically restate, you know, I may need some help. Remember, okay, is that, you know, we're firmly behind increasing teacher salaries, so that teacher salaries across the state are competitive with other states and with other professions. That we're, what was the second one?
Believes that they can get more money.
Yeah, okay. And I think we need to recognize that the progress that has been made. The Governor and General Assembly have been supportive of getting this done, and that in order to get to work the additional money that we need, we have to provide the LEAs with the flexibility to really meet their individual needs, to address the individual needs that they have. The third one was
Recognize it.
Schedule, but make sure that the schedule continues to recognize steps in the
yeah, right. They recognize, right.
Can you clarify that language, please?
Basically, is my anticipation that many of the LEAs, you know, I think there will be differences, but many of the LEAs will continue to have schedules that recognize years of experience and degrees. That would be my expectation, and I guess I fully believe that most LEAs will continue to have schedules that do that. But that add to, and consistent with the what we're approving here, will add to that the provisions for hard-to-fill jobs, performance pay, additional duties, those things that we've done. Okay?
Like to come back and follow it.
Yeah. And the last one basically would be to come back and identify how it's been implemented and make modifications if it isn't turning out the way you want it to. So you got a correction step there. Okay? So we've got a motion on the table that we approve the salary schedule as proposed with this preamble to what is intent of this board. Okay? Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote. Phyllis, if you could call the roll, please.
Ms. Ayers? Aye. Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Justice? Ms. Justice?
Nay.
Ms. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Roberts?
Aye.
Dr. Rogers?
No.
Mr. Ralston?
Aye.
Ms. Sloyan?
Aye.
Dr. Wright?
No.
The motion passes. Appreciate the discussion. I think that we've had a good discussion, and certainly will be consistent with following up on the implementation of this and make sure that it is having the desired impact on teacher salaries. And
Everything that's done is the same way.
we'll move next to the item B on the agenda, which is the high school equivalency testing program. And Gary?
The statute was modified this session to allow the Labor Workforce Development Division to make recommendations to the state board on equivalency exams from time to time, and they have made a recommendation that the state board adopt a high-set exam that's being developed by EPS. So you have in front of you a rule amendment. The first part of this rule amendment is an update to GED, because GED was moved from education to labor workforce development, and we're making that correction. And there's also in the second rule amendment. It's an adjustment on the pass scores for GED. They have been changed. They had not been updated in the current rule. And then the third rule is the implementation of the HiSET program with its cut scores that are parallel to the cut scores for passing on the GED. One note is it's planned for the HiSET in 2 to 3 years, once we're well into the new test, of setting a second cut score that would be not just at a graduation level, but would be at a college and career ready level. And the difference in the cost between GED and HiSET, I think GED is going to be about $200, and the HiSET is going to be $55. So it'll be much more affordable for a lot of Tennesseans. We have to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Gary? I understand that the GED there bringing down the cost some on that.
Temporarily, but
yeah.
I haven't heard a final.
I guess the other question I had is, to what extent are either or both of these supportive of Common Core? And do we really know? I guess what I've been reading is not very easy.
At this point, I can't say that the HiSET is aligned. The plan is to make that alignment as they set that second cut score. And it should be a couple of years down the road once we're into that. It won't be ready in January.
And the intent both for the GED, correct me if I'm wrong, this GED and HiSET both are to have kind of two cut scores. One is what they're calling the high school equivalency, and another is college career ready.
I have not read that about GED. That is in the literature for HiSET.
Okay. Okay, any questions for Gary? This is the recommendation is coming from the Division of Adult Education, I guess, or what is it? The
Labor,
yeah, right. And supposedly they've looked at it real closely and believe that it meets the needs.
I think there's about 43 states now that are in the coalition that are working with ETS.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, is there a motion we approve on final reading? Basically adding HiSET.
Move to approve.
Okay, Mike?
Second.
Got a second, Janet? Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Call the roll, please. Phyllis?
Ms. Ayers? Aye. Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Justice? Aye. Ms. Perry? Aye. Mr. Roberts?
Aye.
Dr. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Ralston?
Aye.
Ms. Sloyan?
Aye.
Dr. Wright?
Aye. Okay, it's approved. The next item is the differentiated pay plan guidelines. Sarah?
Yes. Again, this is the second part to the salary policy proposal before you today. As we mentioned in the workshop, under current Tennessee law, each local education agency must develop, adopt, and implement a differentiated pay plan under the guidelines established by this board. Those guidelines pertain to staffing hard-to-staff subject areas in schools, hiring and retaining highly qualified teachers. It's the Department of Education's responsibility to approve each district's plan prior to implementation or revision of those plans. Also wanted to make the point again, and we mentioned this in April, but when this law was passed in 2007, the following school year, the State Board did adopt guidelines for these differentiated pay plans, and LEA submitted plans to the department. However, as we've reviewed the law and the your State Board guidelines, full implementation has not yet occurred at the state or local level. So to ensure compliance again with the directives of the General Assembly and the State Board, we have proposed today some minor modifications to that existing policy document, and we've discussed those today as well. And we seek to begin full implementation in the 14-15 school year. Again, noting that the department will offer extensive technical assistance to districts over the coming school year as they begin to communicate and engage educators in the development of their differentiated pay plans. Happy to take any questions that the board members may have.
Any questions for Sarah?
Well, your bottom sentence, that they don't get any pay increase for years of service or educational experience. I mean, so they don't get any differentiated pay for earning an extra degree.
So because that's built into the state salary schedule already, those increases based on that in and of itself does not constitute differentiated pay. So that's right. That in and of itself, so solely doing that would not meet the guidelines proposed to you today.
Okay, did it answer?
So is it taken into consideration? I mean,
Through the salary schedule, the differentiated pay guidelines require differentiating based on things beyond years experience and degrees. So again, during the workshop, the examples that I mentioned around teacher leaders, instructional coaches, thinking about performance-based increases in some cases, those would be the kinds of things under these policy guidelines that a district would consider and develop as part of their pay plan.
There's an additional factor or measure, right?
Right. So again, our expectation, based on the proposed salary schedule that you just voted on, is that there are still increases based on years experience and degrees, even under the schedule that was voted on today. So this would be in addition to those increases, taking other factors into consideration.
Okay, other questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
so it's
Got a motion, second? Got a second, Lonnie. Okay, other questions? Any other questions? Okay, Phyllis, call the roll, please.
Ms. Ayers? Aye. Mr. Edwards? Aye. Ms. Justice? Aye. Ms. Perry? Aye. Mr. Roberts?
Aye.
Dr. Rogers? Aye. Mr. Ralston?
Aye.
Ms. Lyon?
Aye.
Dr. Wright?
All right. Okay, the motion is approved. We'll move to item 3D, special education guidelines and standards. Joey? Okay. Welcome. Good to have you with us again.
Glad to be here. This is the final reading regarding evaluation for specific learning disabilities. IDEA 2004 with reauthorization outlined that an LEA no longer has to use discrepancy model in order to identify a student with specific learning disability. Our proposed change in Tennessee will eliminate the discrepancy model beginning July 1, 2014, and we will then use the response to intervention program for basic reading fluency, reading comprehension, mathematical calculations, problem solving, and written expression. It's a tiered model. Tier 1, 80 to 85% of your students on the research model will perform well in that Tier 1, which is your Common Core State Standards or your Tennessee State Standards. All students are universally screened. Those students that fall below the 25th percentile would then be served in a Tier 2 intervention. You will continue to screen and progress monitor. Those students that continue not to make progress would then receive a Tier 3 intervention, and if the student does not make progress under the Tier 3 intervention after being progress monitored, then you know they've had underachievement in either reading or math or written expression, they've not responded to the intervention, and you take out the federal exclusionary factors, then that student can be identified as having a specific learning disability. Essentially, response to intervention will be prevention and intervention instead of wait to fail, and it really focuses on special education becoming a continuum of services, not a place. And that sums it up.
Great. Okay. Good presentation. Questions for Joey?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Am I correct that we are voting on this two-page
Yes.
guidelines piece and not this packet that we got?
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No, per your request at the last meeting, I shared with you, and I apologize for not addressing that. You have 3 copies. You have the RTI squared manual, which is in draft form. It's not yet gone to copy edit. You have the parent contact information, because you specifically asked about parent engagement, so that outlines that for you. And then also you have some sample schedules that we've rolled out to school districts, as well as an implementation readiness checklist. Those are all just tools that we're sharing with school districts that I want the state board to be aware of moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
Well, I have a few, about, if a child has a reading fluency problem and they don't meet a vision disability, but they may have a visual processing problem, where is that addressed? After Tier 1?
Well, we have, as far as when you're reviewing the data, it's recommended in the model that the team look at any information that's shared from an outside source, which could be an optometrist. So that would be in the initial stages if they think that's suspected, but it's a piece that within team meetings would continue throughout the process. As you know, the federal rule-outs do not include visual processing. However, I know we're going to meet with you to discuss a processing checklist that can also be available for schools to look at.
Okay, other questions? Okay, we've talked about this one a good bit in previous meetings. Is there a motion to approve? I got a motion, got a second. Okay, any further discussion or questions? Okay, if not, Phyllis, if you could call the roll, please.
Ms. Ayers?
Aye.
Mr. Edwards?
Aye.
Ms. Justice?
Aye.
Ms. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Roberts?
Aye.
Dr. Rogers? Mr. Ralston?
Aye.
Ms. Floyd?
Aye.
Dr. Wright?
Aye. Okay, the motion is passed. That concludes our agenda for today. We'll have a next meeting is on July the 26th, and then October 25th is the meeting following it. Really appreciate you being here. Meeting adjourned.